My name is Francesco, and I was a body shop owner until recently. My passion has always been cars ever since I was a child. I've always paid attention to this aspect of my job, and so now that I've come of age, let's say, I've devoted myself a bit to my passion, which is classic cars. Here, behind my back, we have one. The car in question is a 1959 Corvette. It differs from the 57 Corvette because that one had a single headlight, while this one has dual headlights. It's a car I've searched for all over Italy. One fine day, some mechanic friends of mine and I found it near Brescia. I think, without exaggerating, that it's also a difficult car to find. This model also has a 3-speed transmission, so it's a car that, let's say, there are few of in Italy, very few in fact, especially because my search took me about a year before I found one. It was in terrible condition because it's entirely made of fiberglass, a very rigid material that tends to crack. So it was cracked in every part of the body. So it was completely dismantled and the chassis separated from the engine. The car was built in fiberglass because, in the 1950s, the designers preferred to make it in this material for several reasons. First, because it would cost less, and, above all, the car is lighter and more responsive, even though it has a 5,000 cubic centimeter engine, a V8. I must say that the restoration wasn't easy. Quite the opposite, in fact, because fiberglass is a material I wasn't familiar with. And so it also gave me the opportunity to learn something new. It lasted about 5 years between bodywork and mechanics. It even took us nights at times. Fiberglass is a difficult material to work with, and there are very few people capable of doing it. So I had to invent another job. To work comfortably on this car, we built a sort of skewer so we could flip the chassis and body over and work comfortably, looking down on it, for both convenience and, above all, for a good result. It was sandblasted entirely to better see the raw fiberglass. Once this was done, we moved on to the initial phase, where the car was filled and primed using products specifically designed for fiberglass. It's a lengthy process, but the result was, I'd say, excellent. The chrome was completely polished, and some even re-chromed because they still showed signs of rust. The mechanical parts were also entirely repainted by me, then sandblasted, and the parts that needed replacing were replaced, thanks in part to these guys. One is called Raffaele and the other Emanuele, mechanics who are truly true professionals on these cars. The entire interior was changed because the car had interiors that weren't its original. The instrumentation wasn't right. And since I wanted to do a somewhat obsessive restoration, I opted to replace all the non-original parts, thus restoring it entirely to its original condition. As for the spare parts, it was difficult because we don't have spare parts in Italy, so they all had to be sourced abroad, mainly in America. I'm truly proud of having built this car. Friends sometimes talk about it, and they all compliment me because it's truly a car worth looking at.
Devo dire che
I must say that when I started it for the first time, I had a wonderful feeling
è bellissima perché comunque ha un
because it has a wonderful sound. I don't know if you're familiar with the sound of a small steamship.
piccolo piroscafo.
Yeah, it sounds like a steamship, the kind they usually take to Ischia to transport small passengers.
Con i trasporti di persone. È stata una
It was also a new experience for me, and it was very nice. Accustomed to Italian engines, the V8 has its own charm.
al suo fascino.
It has a wonderful sound. When I finished it, started it up, and drove it out of the workshop, it gave me a real sense of all the work I put into it, which made me very happy. When I drive it around, I feel a bit like an oddball, because everyone's watching, people stop you, ask for information, and even ask to take their picture. In fact, I'm proud and happy to let them do it, because it's a source of pride for me. This also builds relationships with people on the street, and sometimes even makes friends. I'd never want to part with my car because I've spent so much of my life with it, and I'd like my children and grandchildren to enjoy it too. I don't think I'll ever part with it, that's all.